Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook and one of the billionaires the right loves to hate, or at least loved to hate until very recently, has gone some sort of he's gone through some changes recently in his at least in his political views. Daniel tells me this has uh, been like a few months. I first noticed it with a Joe Rogan interview where he said things that were definitely unexpected. But there is a theory on the internet, on conservative Twitter and YouTube about how this happened, and we are going to discuss that theory today. Welcome to the reality show. I'm joined by Daniel and Alejandro. Before we go through the thread, I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because, well, anyway, any initial thoughts on the recent changes in Mark Zuckerberg, Alejandro?
Well, I have many thoughts on what this event represents. I think it's, as you mentioned, I think this is wider. There are several tech people that have been trying to approach Trump, that they have been trying to get closer to him as his administration is starting to get things. We will discuss a bit further about why. I think many people believe that this is because they want to get something. My belief is that they feel a bit threatened and they don't want to repeat what they experienced in the previous Trump's presidency. But I think certainly Zuckerberg is, from all these tech CEOs, the one that he's been more outspoken and the one that his change looks starker because with everything that he has pledged or any of his companies, they have been perceived as the one that have provoked the most amount of um, limitation on the content based on the content based upon data or the things that people publish. And now with Zuckerberg's decision that they're going to be a bit more lenient, it looks like a 180 degrees turn. I have as well something to say about that. I don't think it's necessarily a good decision. I think businesses the amount of content that you allow in your social media, it's a business issue, not a political issue, and therefore saying that you're going to be more lenient or less lenient should not be necessarily a good business decision. And as such, you it doesn't necessarily mean a positive tendency on what happens next.
Yeah, although I should say one of the results I hope will come out of this positive change is the Ayn Rand Center UK Facebook page being unsuspended. But let's see if that happens. By the way, years ago I was on a panel, an online panel. This was during lockdown. I think it was for Ayn Rand Center Romania, and it was about free speech. And I kind of started it in part to annoy the audience by thanking Mark Zuckerberg because the panel, conservatives and other people on the right love complaining about Facebook. I so often see them complaining about Facebook, not recently, but I would see them complaining about Facebook on Facebook, and that panel discussion was also on Facebook. So yeah, Facebook is a platform that so many of us choose to use or choose to use some of their other products and for free for the most part. So yeah, let's keep that in mind when we complain. We are complaining about somebody who didn't owe us anything, who we wouldn't complain about if he hadn't created the thing that we're choosing to use. That's always important to remember. And also, Victoria says here, it might have been Bezos' girlfriend's cleavage that changed him. Yeah, Lauren Sanchez, I believe, or as she's known to some of us, the real life Sue Ellen Mishki. Yeah, that's a bra, not a top. But Alejandro, you look like you're objecting already, dude.
To be honest, I have no clue what you're talking about. So,
There's a picture of him kind of looking down her top in the during the inauguration.
oh,
Yeah, and then that went kind of viral. Anyway, Daniel,
Well, first on the
there's another Seinfeld reference to that, which is the
oh, I see.
anyway, people will know. Oh yeah, Daniel even knows that. All right, Daniel, go ahead.
First of all, I hate the fact that that happened because it ruined the SEO. So now I was like researching Zuckerberg before and I couldn't because like all of it is like him looking at cleavage and it was like hard to like find all the articles. So just on that, I hate the sort of current culture and what we focus on. Um, then, well, first, I should speak. I'm a Meta shareholder, so I'm here on the, I'm a big businessman here. But yeah, when it comes to something that should be said, like first and foremost, when it comes to any of these CEOs, sort of, being both at Trump inauguration or going to Mar-a-Lago, is like that's a really disappointing state of affairs we are at right now, where there is so much. Basically so much government involvement in the economy that government can have big influence when it comes to decisions or when it comes to how well companies perform. Now this might go both in a good way and a bad way. Basically it might go in a forms of punishments when they do something they dislike, but also rewards when they do something they do like. So from the when it comes to any sort of solutions to anything we talk about, it should always be government get out. It should never be, we need to punish the CEOs because they are doing something we don't like. They have no power. The government has all the actual power when it comes to the power of force, which the private businesses simply don't have, or at least don't have as long as we are not like Russia, that is like an actual oligarchy, which I don't think America is in any shape or form close to. Um, and I think we can go. I have a lot more stuff to say a bit later, but I think it's like a
All right.
start.
Before we go to the thread, Susie says they're real and they're spectacular. No, that's not the reference. That's not the Seinfeld reference. I was thinking of "Get a Good Look" stanza. But yeah, there are enough breast-related references on Seinfeld. Yeah, those of you who haven't watched Seinfeld, you're missing out not just on getting these references, but on much more. Anyway, let's go to this Twitter thread. This is by Dom Woods, a person on Twitter.
X.
He's X, yeah. He says the Zuckerberg transformation theory that's breaking the internet. In 2023, Mark suffered a serious knee injury in MMA training. What happened next has conspiracy theorists losing their mind. Most billionaires play golf, but Zuck, he chose violence, started training MMA, competing in tournaments, and building a fight gym in his backyard. Then came the injury that supposedly changed everything. The theory? His doctors put him on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, during recovery. But here's where it gets wild. People say it didn't just heal his knee, it completely rewired his personality. Okay, before we go into how it rewired his personality, I mean, this is already getting, to the point where I'm wondering, is it a topic worthy of having on a show here? But yeah, Alejandro.
well, didn't you know, Rassi, that MAGA followers are all full with testosterone back there in Oklahoma in their uh, obese carts while purchasing anything in Walmart? I mean, can you imagine? I think this is so
You've offended
silly.
so many in one sentence, so many people.
No, I don't object to buying anything at Walmart, and but certainly when I think about masculinity, even in the roughest, I think, silliest sense in which it's conceived today, I certainly don't conceive a MAGA supporter.
Um, the interesting thing here is that it starts with him training in MMA before the transformation starts. And yeah, this is always, I remember years ago, having this colleague, friend, whatever you want to call it, who was he had just gone vegan and so on, and kind of probably felt somewhat insecure. And I remember him saying something like, "Oh, I'm a man. I've been in fights." And I'm thinking that's what defines masculinity in your mind is fighting. Anyway, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess this is gonna be more of a joke episode, especially as long as we are on this. But it's kind of funny that they would even like suggest something like this, because again, Republicans or sort of MAGA people with their anti-trans sort of almost crusade as like a number one issue. At least when I check X, that's pretty much almost the only thing they talk about. And here's this guy like going on. TRT, and it's okay, but it's the other guys, it's a problem. But whatever. Well, something specifically about well, just this idea of like changing. It's something that's really important. Is like jumping from Democrat to Republican is not that big of a change. It's not like it's like a fundamental difference. You're not going from objectivist to Kantian. You're not fundamentally like changing your worldview. It's you change some opinions on some like concrete, not really important issues, and that's pretty much it. That's why like half of Trump's cabinet is like former Democrats, because it's really not that big of an essential difference when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. So even I guess we'll talk about what sort of let's say started this change, but sort of implying that this is like a huge shift. Uh, Again, I simply don't even see it.
Yeah, but often, a few days ago we talked in this episode that I think was somewhat similar about the things going on in the Daily Wire and the idea of a big tent ideologically. And this is something you kind of have to do, not have to do in the sense that you shouldn't be in an ideological big tent anyway. But if you're, trying to deny reality, this is going to be a part of it. Is you know, fill in the blanks where somebody has shifted in your direction from a place where you were criticizing them all along. You have to add that which isn't there to that which is. Thank you, Equal to Reality, for the super chat. Equal to Reality says, I think head of state Trump is more fitting going forward instead of president. Um, if you want to elaborate, do that in
Oh, I
the.
think it's in Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand referred
Oh, all
to
right.
the head of state as the head of state instead of president, because she had too much respect for the title to give it to essentially like a villain in to a large extent, which I don't think at least yet is the sort of would be appropriate to do when it comes to Trump, especially since he was elected. Uh, I think without any fraud. I mean, he implied there was fraud before he knew he was winning, but that's another issue. Um, I
Yeah,
think there was. Yeah,
some of us need to reread Atlas Shrugged, i.e. me. But yeah, speaking of recommendations, this is far higher than my Seinfeld recommendations, just to be clear. And thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat.
yeah, something I also like to add. I really, because many people have pretty much jumped from calling Zuckerberg a Zuckerberg, or like having like really low opinion uh, of uh, of Zuckerberg, and suddenly now that he changes, he's like now he's the good guy. Now he's a Chad. He looks better and everything, and similar to his Joe Rogan appearance. And that's also something that I find maybe like mildly annoying, or I don't know what to call it. The fact that now he agrees with us, so now he's a good guy, instead of like looking behind, yeah,
Alejandro?
what drives it. And
Well, first of all, I think we're not very sure that he is even aligned with MAGA, and I would say he's certainly not. One of the points that I was trying to make at the beginning is that this appears to some extent to be moved in a political sense of not wanting to confront Trump a lot. I also think that Zuckerberg over the last years has been feeling quite um, pressured or disenchanted by the way that the government has behaved with him. But this apparently it's goes uh, over the last 10 years. This is not an issue that happened when Biden came by. It appears that the Biden administration abused of the power or abused the power that some other parts of the government had already used. But this appears to go back to 10 years ago. The story that the right has, which I think it's um, incongruently said because they want to look better on their tribalist side, is that they say, "Hey, well, there was a censorship and nobody was talking about it, and then Elon Musk came by, he released the Twitter files, and now we know everything that happened." But in reality, if you remember the news, the first time that we started to hear about this was in August of 2022, as well in a Joe Rogan interview with Zuckerberg. And Zuckerberg was the first person who talked about this, about the government pressuring Facebook to combat disinformation and so on. But in the newest interview, he appears to say that this issue was going back to 2016. But back in 2016, the leader of the government, the head of state, as our super chatter was trying to say, was Donald Trump. It wasn't Biden. Maybe yes, Biden took it
Well, in
10 steps forward.
2016, it was Obama.
Oh, what? Yeah, but 2016 was the thing that they wanted to address. And I mean, in the comment with Joe Rogan says, "Hey, we want to address the 2016 elections." So this happened after the elections, and very likely in the Trump administration. Um, so this is very likely something that has been going on for at least a decade, and therefore Trump has an issue over there. Of course, Zuckerberg won't say today, if he wants to be friendly with the government, that Trump also has some blame to do here. But we should bear in mind that maybe he's not that MAGA at all.
Alejandro, the problem with everything you just said is it's kind of you're trying to make sense, and that's not what conservative Twitter is all about. So let's go back to what conservative Twitter is all about and continue with this thread. So yeah, the last tweet, I'll repeat the last tweet because the next one follows it. The theory: his doctors put him on testosterone replacement therapy during recovery from his injury. Here's where it gets wild. People say it didn't just heal his knee, completely rewired his personality. Look at the evidence they point to. Suddenly jacked physique, more assertive speaking style, insert in masculine hobbies like weapons training. Even his voice reportedly dropped deeper. New iced out chin. Chain. uh, Daniel, how can you argue with the evidence?
I'm trying to have my voice deeper just so I also have a. Actually also been on whatever. Um, I mean, what do you even like? Yeah, I really like the sort of the macho view of like of masculinity, that it's like it's when you shoot guns and you don't have emotions and your like voice is lower, and these like super like super like concrete things that again don't really matter, and again sort of implying that sort of conservatives are somehow like more masculine. And now again, you could go to different things about how either side is. Um, I mean, I, this is like a shit post. I don't know what to really say to that. Like, it's such a random thing. It's such a random thing to like. Again, because it is pretty much what do you even call it, like like rationalization. Like you start with the idea, oh, so like like a good man is like a Republican, masculine, sort of low voice, and you then start, oh well, if Zuckerberg now looks like more like this or is like agreeing with us more, then it must also have these like things. I think it is like, I think it's a nice exercise of like rationalism to like go into it. Um, Something I want to bring from the chat. Someone says, I think Mark Zuckerberg gave in to government pressure in order to protect his business. Not everybody is as bold as Elon Musk. Just a heads up, Elon Musk is the government now. I don't know what kind of like pressure he is escaping. Not to mention, he actually did help the current president to get elected with his platform. So, trying to say that, one way to escape the government pressure is again to become the part of government, is to actually start working with the government. So I wouldn't say to Elon Musk as he's some sort of like um he's like standing out to pressure or anything. Not to mention there is something I've seen that I found really interesting, and it sort of works with that. Something to remember is Elon Musk is or X is a private business. It's no longer, he took it private. It's no longer a publicly traded company, which Meta, the Mark Zuckerberg's company, isn't. Mark Zuckerberg is a CEO. And when it comes to government pressure, I think we like to imagine that we want our businessmen to be sort of like Hank Rearden from Atlas Shrugged, sort of saying, hey, if you want to shut down my business, then do it. uh like I cannot work under I cannot just like do some agree with some of your stuff. Like if I don't have property rights, then take them away. um and I always hope, like, because Zuckerberg was like in front of Congress and for a hearing, I think like some years ago, and I always like to imagine, like, imagine if he just said, why are you guys talking to me? You have no business here. But something to remember when it comes to being a CEO, your duty as a CEO is not to sort of not specifically have like morals, like integrity. Let's just call it that. You have a basically fiduciary duty to your shareholders. And now when it comes to these actions he's taking with Trump, so something that is important to bring up, in Trump's recent book, Save America, he is directly threatening Zuckerberg with life in prison uh, after the Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, admitted his company took down content under pressure from Biden administration. So Mark Zuckerberg said that there was a pressure from Biden administration, and Zuckerberg said because of Trump said because of this pressure that Donald Trump wanted to put Zuckerberg in jail. Now, after we learned that, Mark Zuckerberg did his sort of change of rules on X, on Facebook. One of them being taking away the third-party fact checkers. Now, after that, Trump said he's willing to sort of work with Zuckerberg closely. I think specifically, he said he thinks Zuckerberg took notice of his threats. Now, again, this is like scary. But imagine if you are like a Zuckerberg as a CEO. If you have a company, you should try to stand up to the government when they try to put pressure on you. And now, again, I, as a Meta shareholder, I'm willing to sort of lose, because let's say Facebook or Meta would get banned or anything closer to that by the Trump administration. The stock would take a hit. Now I'm willing to like take that hit, but sort of we agree when it comes to publicly traded companies that CEO's number one goal should be maximizing the profits of shareholders. Now, there is like a really interesting question there. Basically, when it comes to what Mark Zuckerberg should do, if he sort of stood up to government and something happened to Facebook or the stock, would is that something a CEO should take as an action? And then if you are sort of in, and again, this is like an impossible situation you are put in because of government interference. Um, but yeah, I'm wondering what you guys think. I've seen someone sort of playing around with that idea, and I found it really interesting.
Yeah. Basically, what you're saying to Zuckerberg is Trump isn't your boss. I am as a Meta shareholder. That's
Well, he's much bigger shareholder than I am, so
well. Thank you, El Rito, for the super chat. Susie says, new hairstyle that is actually more flattering than the Caesar cut. Mark says, new personal brand for Zuckerberg, grow hair longer so he doesn't look like Dr. Evil, more personal image. Yeah, I mean, and again, yeah, I agree. He looks better, but adding stuff to it that as to the why is questionable. And Enric says Zuck also becomes a werewolf on a full moon. Yeah, I think that's the uh, natural progression of where he's going. Thank you, Martin, for the super chat. Alejandro.
I want to go back to the tweet, and I mean the tweet is very silly, but I think it reveals some of the spirit that it's behind the MAGA movement. But it inherited a bit from that. What was the name? Bronze Age pervert. The whole notion that we used to be this kind of big guys who were able to deal with nature with our strong arms, and then we started thinking, and we became silly, uh, refrained within our minds, stopped, but our strength was gone, and therefore we became this kind of office rats that only sat down from 9 to 5 and don't do anything. And I think that's a very Nietzschean inheritance. I was watching a lecture of Nietzsche a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a significant resemblance between that and the whole notion of what has become over the last years the MAGA movement. And one of the interesting things is that that was mentioned in the lecture, and I think it's a good way of portraying most of Nietzsche's philosophy, is that Nietzsche believes himself to be a new Socrates, a kind of Socrates that rejects the whole project that the first Socrates was trying to enable, the whole idea of thinking, of trying to uh, restrain the world via our minds instead of our muscles. And and I think one of the things that you can see over here is that notion that Zuckerberg was this kind of silly guy, incapable of dealing with reality as a man, as a strong brute, as a caveman. And now that he's able to, uh, play Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, he's now a real man. He's a real deal. He's someone that I can admire. And I think that's such a bad way of conceptualizing manhood, and manhood in the broader sense, not like testosterone, but like what makes a human being a human being. It's such a silly way of thinking about that I don't I don't think that I wouldn't forecast a good life to someone that believes that living under those standards is proper. And it's really tragic. And the fact that this is taking over a good chunk of our culture, it's alarming, because I don't think that this is going to end very well. Oh, but and also a last point. Do you know why the Nazis had these cuts back in the day? Like, if you see the pictures of the Nazis, it's because apparently in back in those days, having cuts made you this kind of, I mean, some of them were in World War I, but some of them made them purposely, or because they fought in fencing without any guards, because they thought they would be more manly, more tough, they would be more, übermensch, because if they did that. And I think that the resemblance to that, it's quite alarming as well.
Yeah, get into fights, you're a man. Create a business that, billions use and you make hundreds of billions. Beta. Thanks, Enric, for the super chat.
Beta.
Yeah, I tried to do it in my best Jesse Lee Peterson voice, but I maybe I need some testosterone shots. Deborah says, "How is removing the left-leaning third-party thought police worse than caving into the Biden administration and allowing them to restrict speech?" Is that what he's doing? I mean,
Well,
I look.
again, and it is better because it's a private business. They can, in a sense, do whatever they want. Of course, like an action of a private business is better than the caving into pressure by the government. And also, I'll even fight on the third party checkers. I think every social media should have some form of like making sure some form of moderation, even if it's not maybe the fact checkers are not the best thing to do. But I think YouTube does it in a decent way whenever you talk about. I think when we talk about the 6 Day War and the what was it the what was the chip? Sorry, I forgot the name.
USS Liberty.
US's Liberty. I think whenever you talk about, also I think when you talk about COVID, when you talk about flat Earth, you get like a Wikipedia article, like a link at the bottom. And I think some form like that is good. Whatever X, I think even X's community notes are pretty nice, and I always like to see when they community note Elon Musk himself directly. But I think absolutely some form of fact checking or whatever you want to call it on the social media is a good thing. It's more of a case of properly doing it rather than itself.
I mean, I agree. It's good to have, some content moderation. I don't think Facebook fact checkers were a net good. I think they were pretty bad the way it was done, and I think community notes, like so many of them, are so just this person is expressing one view, I hold a different one. Let me community note them, and that's a thing. It's by the way, it's
Really?
it's
I,
uh,
I've never seen that. I've
it's very much
always
a thing in Hebrew. I see this all the time. There was a big deal when Smotrich, the Israel's finance minister, um, said, tweeted something about how happy he is to see the hostages released, and there was a community note that he voted against the deal. I mean, come on. So yeah, there's bias in those community notes, but anyway. Um,
I don't know. I would
Alex
kind of
says.
fight for that specific. I think it's like a good context. Like, yeah, like someone is celebrating like results of one action, yet he didn't support that action. I think it's like like again, you might like something to remember with community notes, fact checkers, Wikipedia itself. It like relies on the goodness of its people. Like if we are a corrupt culture, they'll never be great. They'll never be good
If
enough because we as a culture are already failing. There's nothing you could do to really make it.
if an Israeli minister who voted for the deal tweets something in favor of the hostages being released, should you have a community note saying this person voted for many more hostages to be many more citizens to be taken hostage in the future? So it's hypocrisy of him to say something positive about any. I mean, come on, that is bias, and that is there is bias in these community notes. They're not fact checking people for the most part, but anyway. Alex says MAGA movement is so disparate and random, means everything and nothing at the same time. It's actually quite genius on the part of a political planner. Yeah, it is. That's the thing, within the MAGA, even within his cabinet. We talk about this in the context of Israel. You have people who understand that Israel is fighting savages, and it's very much in America's interest to fully support it. And then you have people who are full-blown anti-Semites. You have Tucker Carlson there in the inauguration. So yeah, what this movement, it's certainly not something that the best you can hope for the next 4 years is that the bad people don't have as much influence as they can, and that the good people have some influence, and somehow the next step isn't the continuation and growth of the MAGA movement. But uh Alejandro, anything to add before I go to the rest of the thread?
Go through the rest of the thread.
All right. Um, okay, so the thread continues. The conspiracy crowd says pre-2023, Zuck was the classic Silicon Valley lib. Post-recovery, they're calling him Based Zuck. From hoodies to rash guards, from metaverse to martial arts. They claim the testosterone red-pilled him. Started posting workout videos, hanging with fighters like Alexander Volkanovsky, building an underground bunker. This is, this isn't the same guy who's awkwardly explaining smoked meats on Facebook Live. The wildest part, his public image actually improved. The same people who hated Lizard Man Zuck are now calling him Jack Zuck. The memes went from mockery to admiration. Is TRT the secret sauce that turned Facebook's robot CEO into an alpha tech bro? Or is this just another internet conspiracy theory? One thing's certain, 2025 Zuck is built different. All right. I mean, one thing about this whole testosterone thing sounds very deterministic to me. You know, I mean, it's not fully deterministic because there is, a change that's happening, but it is kind of like your personality is determined by uh, something that is not actually a choice that you make.
No,
Yeah. You have one
yeah,
choice:
well,
take TRT or not. Go ahead then.
yeah, I mean, I really like the sort of caricature that he was like, before this he was like drinking a lot of soy, and he was like, I don't know, doing yoga, and I don't know what's like like sort of viewed as like a feminine thing, and yeah, they mentioned even the smoking meats, which is like there's a really funny song made from that. I recommend checking out. And after he went on TRT, he's like he's this man. When he walks into a bar, he slams the jukebox and it plays the thing he wants. It's like really like as if I asked like ChatGPT, hey, can you make a caricature of like someone going on TRT and like changing afterwards? Um, and especially, I mean, the fact that it would like change his like view of the world when it comes to like ideas he's holding. That is, I think, the sort of deterministic part. I mean, it's sort of true that, yeah, things, because of your hormones, some things when it comes to your body will definitely change, but will it change like your party affiliation? I bit more suspect of that.
Yeah, Alejandro.
I think. I mean, it's so silly that it's difficult to give something that it's makes sense. But maybe the thing that I say, this doesn't make any sense because someone who experienced a similar change is Jeff Bezos, and he didn't experience it 1 year ago or 2 years ago, but it has been a matter of the last 10 years. You can see him going from having his awkward and then and dressing up with hoodies and things like that to now being like this super cool guy who lifts weights, has this massive yacht, and I I mean I feel well for them. It looks like they are living the life pretty nicely, and I have some care for all this too. And if I saw Bill Gates losing his pregnant man body and becoming like a tough strong guy, I would feel well for him. But I don't think it's a moral issue per se, or I would say, hey, he's my kind of guy because he now lifts weights or whatever. He's both are my kinds of guy because there are people who are sorting out problems in a massive way, and they're doing things that very few people can do, um, and sorting out problems in an era where almost everything that you encounter, it's a series of no, you cannot do that, that's impossible. Well, these are the few people who can do the impossible. That's what I like about them. um, what they do in their life, I hope them well, that they're doing well. that's it. I have no opinion on that.
Um, WUB says Nietzsche had a way of saying things to make them sound much better than they actually are. Yes, I mean when your philosophy is expressed in aphorisms, it's kind of easy to. We have that actually. Facebook, I think, made that a thing very much. People posting some one-liner and it sounds good, and that's all you really need. By the way, Alejandro, I really need to write this stuff down. So hoodies are beta. What is can you give us some sort of breakdown? I didn't know this. Hoodies are so comfortable, especially in the winter. But apparently that they're out. Okay. What
Well, he
else?
had
Just
his.
listen to Andrew Tate. I mean, what's even?
Oh, that's that guy is super beta.
Well, Nikos would disagree.
By the way, Andrew Tate, I remember during Christmas, I'm thinking, Christmas, I always like work throughout Christmas, the Christmas time, and Andrew Tate posted something about how it's good to work throughout Christmas time, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a positive message. But the way he posted, I don't remember the exact wording of it, but I remember the first word was losers. Losers go on holiday and Christmas. And I'm like, really? Is this anyway, that's his branding. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm just thinking of the. So what are we doing now? Are we like providing people like how to be more like masculine? So taking from the Andrew Tate Academy, you never hold a plastic bottle. You always drink the whole thing and then throw it away. That's important because you have to be ready to fight. You cannot hold the bottle in your hand while you're walking. You have to be ready to
But you
fight.
can use it as a weapon, or are
No,
weapons
that's
not?
that's for
Oh.
yeah. You never, of course, you never walk with AirPods because you have to be ready. If someone jumps you, you have to be ready to respond. You cannot uh, this is actually good advice. Probably if you're walking at night, don't have AirPods in. You should probably have like one AirPod in, and just so you're aware of your surroundings. That's probably a good advice. Anyway, what else is
I really would like to undertake to go to a tough neighborhood in Honduras. Uh, I don't think they would. He would last like 10 seconds. Anyways,
Thank you, Alex, for the super chat. Alex says the same trick the Ulrich Silk Road tried when he got caught in a grand drug scheme. Don't lock me up. I'm not a criminal. I'm just a libertarian. Yeah, I know Alex has a lot to say about that. We did talk about it a few days ago, but while we were talking about it, there was also a conversation that I was kind of half trying to follow in the ARCUK members politics group. Alejandro, do you have anything to say about that?
not really. Uh, no, I don't
Yeah,
have a
I kind of
specific.
I kind of threw that out there. There was no plan to talk about it. I'm just wondering if, if we've beaten this. I mean, it is the manly thing to do to beat a dead horse, I guess. But I don't know if there's much to add about Zuckerberg transformation theory, except just generally thinking about what this says about the movement that is now just now the leading one in the U.S., at least as far as their culture applied to politics goes, because they are in power.
no, but they also won the election and also got a popular vote. So the American sort of people, as it stands right now, are behind, at the very least, whatever Republicans are sort of standing for, even if not necessarily what Trump is standing for, or are simply, view Trump as sort of the less evil option. Um, yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? I'm trying to think of like all the masculine advice I got over the years by listening to Brad Pill guys. I think like a big part is like get a vasectomy so you can so you don't have a child randomly so you can focus on your work. I think that's a big part. Oftentimes they argue for.
Um, Deborah says in the chat, as the grandmother of two little boys, I'm rather pleased that it is less acceptable to act like masculinity is a problem. But I consider being protective of females masculine, not abusing females. Yeah, well, this is of course not Zuck, but it is Andrew Tate's personal brand, abusing women. And yeah, this is such a false dichotomy that the left and the right are imposing on us because it's not like you either take TRT and fight or go to transition into a female. Like those are not your alternatives in life, Alejandro.
Well, yeah, and what does masculinity mean? Um, I, I certainly it's not uh, to be a passive guy or to be accepting of everything, but it's also not leaving women as if they were Jesus Christ carrying the cross. I think it's clearly something quite different to that, and sadly, I would love someone to make a whole comprehension of what does it mean. I think Ayn Rand had very good insights into what masculinity means, and certainly it has insights on what femininity is. I think it's been over characterized as something merely sexual. uh, I think it's a wider topic, and I have some notions, but in a very um, initial way. So I wouldn't dare to name them over here. But certainly, I think one should be proud about their masculinity or femininity and think about yourself. Like, is this proper to me or not? And that's it.
Well, if you don't expand on it here, you can write about it on our Substack, and we'll you know give people the definitive guide. But in the meantime, there was a comment here that I wanted to read, but now I can't find it. So, oh yeah, Akira says the left started this nonsense between masculinity and non-binary. Yes, and then the right is kind of like I've said, the right is the anti-left. So whatever the left says, we're offended by everything, and then the right kind of reacts with if you're ever offended by anything, there's something wrong with you. Yeah, we get too much of that, and there is such a thing as right and wrong, and it is objective, and it is not based on whatever political movement happens to be popular or whatever happens to be currently within the Overton window. I'd love for actual right and wrong to be somewhere within the Overton window. That's something we strive for, but yeah, whether or not it is doesn't change it. Daniel.
Uh, well, I'll read the super chat from Alex. Thank you so much. She says, Andrew Tate told me to not have a high body count if I want to be a woman worthy of, what is Adonis?
It's a Greek god
Oh,
or some. I don't know if it was god, but someone in the Greek mythology. But that is was very handsome.
like him. I've only kissed 2.5 boys. Am I still in? I think the half the boy is Zuckerberg before TRT. Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, that's another thing. It's, well, I'll bring like a thing from like 10 years ago. When Ben Shapiro talked about Atlas Shrugged, he said that Dagny was too promiscuous. Promiscuous? What's the word? That she was like sleeping around in the course of Atlas Shrugged. Just, which again shows this like
Who said that?
Ben Shapiro.
Oh, by the
Which
way, that's a bit of a spoiler for Atlas Shrugged, but again, people should read it. Continue.
well, I'm not. She was with 3 men in like a total of the book, probably in total of her life. And I think there is this like weird, like conservative view of like having, yeah, like I don't know what to even call it. I didn't expect this to be like a discussion on masculinity and femininity and like
There's the
sexual
yeah
partners.
the wait for marriage view, which is evil. It was much more of a popular thing, I think, among conservatives. It still is. I mean, what's his name? The famous host, the guy Crowder,
Mm.
he famously, was openly saying, we're waiting for marriage.
Yeah, didn't
And
they get divorced?
yes, yes, and it's a very bad situation. But again, that's not the proof. The fact that one, sample of one. But yeah, it's an evil view that is imposed, and of course, the alternative of just sleep with anybody is also evil, and that is the false dichotomy that we're presented with. A race says, y'all remember Rushvi? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say, but yeah, if you don't Google him or don't, you're not really missing out if you're not Googling him. But since we are, talking about how many boys we've kissed and all that, let me just say that tomorrow, uh, the Philosophy Forum, which is usually a benefit of membership at the platinum level and above. Platinum level is £50 a month. Tomorrow, the forum is open to all ARCUK members, and it will be live streamed on YouTube for YouTube members who can participate in the live chat. The reason I'm bringing this up in the context, because the reason the Philosophy Forum is something you can only attend live and not record, and you don't get recordings of it, is the first time we did it, we thought, let's see how it goes when it's not recorded. And yeah, people got into lots of personal details that they might not want to have on record decades from now. So yeah, attend live or forever hold your peace. We're going to be talking about taking children seriously, which is an educational philosophy. You can look it up, and you should look it up if you're going to participate. We're also going to be talking about animal rights. Is that a thing? Parting thoughts, Alejandro?
We we were thinking about Zuckerberg as if he was now a MAGA person, and I think not. And I think MAGA itself is going to repudiate him. I think soon. Let's see for how long he lasts. I think he's antithetical to the movement. I think all the tech entrepreneurs are not are definitely not what the movement wants. And my prediction is that there will be at odds during the next 4 years with the Trump administration. We don't know if they will cave in or if they will split apart. But certainly, I don't think it's going to be a love story. Now, let's try to take this as an opportunity for us to maybe convince one of these geniuses and join to the movement or supporters of ARC UK.
Thank you, Alex, for the super chat. Alex says, femininity and masculinity is nonsense, regressive stereotypes that hold you back in life. I disagree, but that is a topic for another day. I completely disagree with, the way, as I've said, both sides presented, but I do think there is something to that. And yeah, we were going to talk, and we will talk, at some point soon about the trans issue. We're going to do a lot about that issue down the line, but we will at the very least talk about it on a upcoming episode. Daniel, parting thoughts?
Well, I definitely didn't expect Alex to become a non-binary like icon here, but it's nice to hear from her. Um wait, I did have something and I forgot about it. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Damn Dan, and if you give me like 10 seconds, maybe I can think what I want to say.
Well, I will give you 10 seconds because I didn't thank Jonathan for his super chat. Thank you, Jonathan. And I didn't get from Alejandro, where can people find more from you?
I think you can go ahead into the ARC UK's Substack. I've written a couple of articles over there. If you want to know a bit more about my view on Millet and how, despite that he's doing a lot of good things, he also has some dark sides, especially his character. If you want to revisit that now that he mentioned yesterday Atlas Shrugged in Davos, go ahead. I think you can learn a bit more about his character and who he is.
And yeah, I will once again pitch tomorrow's philosophy forum if you are a member, and many people watching now are members and or YouTube members, you should join that. And if you're not, you should consider becoming a member, even just for that to try it out. Although again, this is a one-time thing when it's open to all members. Not a one-time thing, but it's almost always for platinum and above. You, as a member, you also get to join you get many other perks, including additional content, hours of additional content every week, and you get access to the WhatsApp groups where the conversation continues, including with the people that you see on this channel. It continues while we are not on the air. Um, Daniel, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, to build on what Alejandro said about what we'll see with Zuckerberg and Trump, I mean, when it comes to Trump's last administration, I believe not a single person from that administration endorsed him when he was running again, meaning again in now recently. So I think everything will most likely fall apart, and the only question is like when it will realistically happen. I don't know if people watched the news recently, but it looks like one Republican congressman is already trying to put forward an amendment to allow Trump to run for a third term. So we're already in for some, and I love the way it was written. It's written as if basically you can run for a third term, but you cannot run for a third term if you already had two consecutive terms. So it basically means only Trump currently can run for a third term, because I was big supporter of repealing what is it, A20 First Amendment, whatever it is that establishes terms. Repeal it and have Obama and versus Trump in the next election, the fight for America. But no, most likely keep the term limits.
They waited Jimmy Carter to die
Yeah.
to do this.
Bastards.
That is scary. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We are back tomorrow with the Daily Objective.